Are you looking for new music from 2022 that you want to listen to help you get a good feel for music that's coming out within the year? Check out my playlist down in the description below. 2022 is on fire, where I feature my personal favorite tracks from the albums I've listened to throughout the year, whether I've reviewed it already, only written a review, or just listened to it casually. Check it out when you have the time. I'd really appreciate the support, and you might even find a band or an artist that you didn't know previously that might be a new favorite. Without further ado, let's get into the video. I really hate doing reviews like this with this kind of tone and overall attitude, but when you're trying to get a portfolio going and trying to get a good array of reviews done, shit like this happens. Welcome to Everyone Does Music, where first and foremost, you're going to see a quick runtime here, and you're going to see a lot of this video being me just looking down at the computer screen and reading off like this. That's because I got 12 albums sitting in my review backlog. I need to get that shit done, because I got over 100 albums, and it's not even halfway through the year that I need to listen to for this year, so this backlog's gotta fucking go. Moving on from that, the album that we're looking at today is the 10th studio album from metal band Trivium called In the Core of the Dragon. Trivium was never a band I paid too much attention to, as I sort of mixed them in with bands like Bullet for My Valentine and similar acts like Atreyu, being a band that was always there but never truly caught my ear outside of one or two songs. For this band, In Waves was the equivalent to The Right Side of the Bed or Temper Temper, and I never felt a real drive to go further into the band's work until last year when I began to create a slow comeback for music content. What the Dead Men Say caught my attention when it first came out with a solid lead single, but when I got into the full meat of the album, I found it was just another pretty okay but not great album. Exactly the type of thing I was afraid would happen. A lot of pure metal bands, whether I enjoy their overall sound or not, seem to eventually settle into a safe sameness with their music after a few albums, possibly retaining an innate heaviness, but not always pushing that envelope to create unique songs. It's usually the same thing, copy and paste it over for a 10-song LP. I saw the reviews for this album and thought with all this praise the band was getting from musical outlets, maybe this would be a different experience, but my hopes were dashed in a short time. Before I get into absolute negatives, let me speak positive about the lead single for this album, the title track, In the Core of the Dragon. Trivium and their lead vocalist Matt Heafy, I know they know how to snap your attention in the early goings of a song, as is evident by not only past singles like Kill the Poor or Strife, but this song as well. He comes roaring in straight out of the gates, backed up by a pretty enjoyable drum pattern courtesy of Alex Bent, Get Bent. And following a sort of disappointing intro track instrumental, I had faith in the momentum and the fact that it might follow suit throughout the album in terms of quality and consistency. Every member of the band that keeps things going, they keep them straight in line for better and for worse. It's rare to see a song from a metal band, especially a lead single, that keeps everyone on an equal playing field in terms of moments where they get to stand out. Hell, like I said earlier, Matt stays commanding and loud enough, but Alex brings in enough thunder to keep pace with his vocal beast, with all three guitar players putting in the work to help create an overall beast that definitely tries its best to live up to the behemoth of the album's name. Because this is an album where you look at the name and you think to yourself, alright, this is going to be a beefy boy. I did notice coming towards the end of the song and in the next couple songs, however, this album takes the term formulaic and stabs it into the ground with an axe that could kill a dragon itself. From listening to the songs over and over, checking Genius lyric pages, and analyzing the lyrics of themselves, it seems as if every song in this album follows a strict structure that does not change outside of the last track, The Fountain X. I thought it was just in my head and me trying to pick out a point of contention for this album at first, but after some digging, I found that this same formula is put into nearly every song. And it's blatantly obvious that that's the case on In the Core of the Dragon. A strict bullet list for creating a song is sometimes needed and oftentimes beneficial in the writing and production process, but it's thanks to an overall unique composition and final arrangement that bands who employ common structures like this, such as Of Mice and Men or 3 Days Grace, manage to create an enjoyable album. What Trivium has done here is try and say that they were channeling aggression into this release, courtesy of the COVID-19 pandemic, saying that they had all the power and fury in the world, but the end product feels like just another typical run-of-the-mill album that would have been done outside of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm only bringing that up because I saw a couple interviews and some couple talking points that Matt and some other members of the band said, and they were saying like, oh yeah, we're fucking extra pissed because of the pandemic, which, yeah, rightfully so, and I don't doubt that they were, but they're essentially saying like, this is going to be one of our best works yet because of this aggression that we're putting into it. That's just not the case. I feel like it truly does come too late, but the closing track, The Phalanx, does bring in a worthwhile sword to battle, but this sword is double-edged. While it does finally lean into the sort of grandiose form that Trivium wanted to employ here on the album, in doing so it exposes the worst parts of the album. This track is one of 3 songs that go beyond 3 minutes, but is the only one that doesn't feel like it's going on and on for the sake of being a longer track. Both of these other tracks, Shadow of the Abattoir and Fall Into Your Hands, have lackluster verses barely supported by the choruses themselves, which feel phoned in at best. I despise going in this hard on negatives and talking down on songs, but the only feeling I got from Shadow and Fall was a desire for the track to end, and then spite when I realized that there was still another whole half of the song to suffer through when I got to the halfway point. I was at the halfway point, I got this feeling of, oh, it's gotta be over soon. Nope, still got a whole nother half to go. In comparison, Fall Into Your Hands has a great guitar solo, or maybe breakdown, that feels like something I've heard 1,000 times before, whereas the later song, The Phalanx, goes out of its way to switch up pace and create a genuinely emotional vocal performance from Matt Heafy. The slow, drawn-out delivery in the verses and bridges makes the attempt at a deep composition that Shadow the Abattoir just looks plain weak. It's not as if Trivium can't make good music. They've done it before several times, and multiple times on this album. It started to feel like the hope and hype that they repeat and done on albums like In Waves, it was gonna come, but the triumph never comes. The lyrics feel like Matt opened up about 10 tabs of World of Warcraft quest dialogue, took out some action phrases, hastily glued them into a copy-paste metal song template. There's no shame in a band going all in on fantasy concepts and leaning into a more of a conceptual feel in metal. Hell, Dragon Force's whole discography is essentially that concept turned up to 11, but every time allusions to the medieval setting come up, no matter how light or heavy-handed it was, it fell flat and it was dead on arrival because there wasn't a good music element to accompany it. To avoid the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to cut this review down right now in terms of the actual physical script. It's barely pushing to the end of its second Google Doc page, but I've said all that really needs to be said on this album. I found nothing of substance for anyone who's not a die-hard, 100% dedicated fan of Trivium, as I think the people who crown this band as their favorite and number one can probably find elements to enjoy here, but I just can't do it personally or critically. Trivium is at their best when they center themselves right into metal or occasional thrash metal, and they don't need to force on this overdone atmosphere around the music that feels like they've done here. So, for that reason and the reasons I've talked about before, In the Court of the Dragon by Trivium gets a 5 out of 10. That was a review. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. What's your favorite album or song from Trivium? Let's get a conversation going. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you're staying hydrated. I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.